They say your wedding day is the happiest day of your life. Mine was supposed to be a magical Christmas wedding with snow, twinkling lights, and the man of my dreams. Instead, it became the day I discovered my mother, sister, and brother had spent 3 months plotting to destroy it, and the day I exposed them all in front of 150 guests. I'm Victoria Hayes, 32 years old, and this is the story of how my family sabotaged my wedding and how I made sure everyone knew exactly what they'd done. But let me start at the beginning, because the sabotage didn't come out of nowhere. It came from years of jealousy, resentment, and toxicity that I'd been too naive to see. I grew up in Burlington, Vermont, the middle child of three. My older sister Diane was always the pretty one, homecoming queen, popular, the girl everyone wanted to be. My younger brother Kyle was the baby, spoiled and catered to, and I was Victoria, the invisible middle child who worked hard, stayed quiet, and tried to earn love through achievement. I was the first in my family to graduate college. I got a master's degree in education and became a high school English teacher. I bought my own house at 28. I built a stable, independent life. My family seemed proud, but there was always an undercurrent of something else. Resentment, maybe, like my success was somehow a judgment on their choices. Diane had married young to her high school boyfriend Travis. They had 3 kids by the time she was 25. The marriage was rocky, constant fighting, money problems, infidelity rumors. She lived in my parents' basement with her kids after her second separation from Travis. Kyle had bounced between jobs his whole adult life, always having some new scheme or startup idea that never panned out. He lived with his girlfriend Morgan in a tiny apartment and was constantly asking my parents for money. My parents, Linda and Frank Hayes, were working class people who'd never had much but always acted like they had everything figured out. My mother especially had strong opinions about how everyone should live their lives, opinions that usually centered on maintaining appearances and not getting too big for your britches. When I met Daniel, everything in my life clicked into place. Daniel Cross was a civil engineer, kind and steady and everything I'd ever wanted. We met at a friend's barbecue 2 years ago and started dating immediately. He was supportive, respectful, and genuinely interested in my life and dreams. 6 months ago, he proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. It was simple and perfect, just us, the sunset, and a ring that had belonged to his grandmother. I called my family that night, ecstatic. "We're engaged!" My mother's response, "Well, that's fast. You've only been dating, what, a year?" "A year and a half. Mom, I'm 32. I know what I want." "I'm just saying, there's no rush. You don't want people thinking you have to get married." I ignored the implication. "We're thinking a Christmas wedding, this December, small and intimate, maybe 100 people." "This December? Victoria, that's 6 months away. You can't plan a wedding in 6 months." "We can if we keep it simple. We've already found a venue, the Riverside Inn. They had a cancellation for December 22nd. December 22nd? That's right before Christmas. How are people supposed to travel? How are we supposed to afford gifts for a wedding and Christmas?" "Mom, you don't have to get us anything big. Your presence is enough." "Well, I hope you're not expecting your father and me to pay for this wedding. We don't have that kind of money." "We're paying for it ourselves. We don't expect anything from you." That should have been my first clue. She seemed almost offended that we didn't need her money. The engagement period should have been joyful. Instead, it was 6 months of my family trying to undermine everything. My mother criticized every decision. The venue was too expensive. The date was inconvenient. The dress I wanted was too elaborate. The guest list was too small. The flowers were too extravagant. The cake was too simple. Nothing was right. Diane was worse. She'd gone quiet after my engagement announcement, barely speaking to me for a week. When she finally called, she said, "I hope you know what you're getting into. Marriage isn't the fairy tale you think it is." "I know it takes work, Diane. Daniel and I are ready for that." "You say that now. Wait until you have kids and bills and he's working late every night while you're stuck at home. Then we'll see how perfect your marriage is." That's a really negative way to look at things. I'm just being realistic. Someone has to be. Kyle was more passive-aggressive. He'd make jokes about Daniel locking me down and how I was giving up my freedom. He asked multiple times if I was sure I wasn't rushing into things. But I brushed it all off as typical family dysfunction. I focused on planning a beautiful wedding with Daniel, excited about starting our life together. The sabotage started 3 months before the wedding. Small things at first. My mother accidentally gave the caterer the wrong date, causing confusion that took days to sort out. Diane forgot to send back her RSVP, claiming she wasn't sure if she could make it work with the kid schedule. Kyle asked if he could bring 3+1s because all his friends wanted to come, then got upset when I said we'd already finalized the head count. Then things escalated. 2 months before the wedding, my dress went missing from the bridal shop. I'd ordered a custom gown, paid in full, and was scheduled for my final fitting. When I arrived, the shop owner looked confused. "Victoria, I'm so sorry, but your dress isn't here." "What do you mean it's not here? My fitting is today." "I know, but someone picked it up yesterday. A woman said she was your sister and that you'd sent her to get it." My blood ran cold. "What did she look like?" "Blonde, mid-30s, said her name was Diane." I called Diane immediately. "Did you pick up my wedding dress?" "What? No, why would I do that?" "The bridal shop said someone claiming to be you picked it up yesterday." "Well, it wasn't me. I've been home with the kids all week. Maybe they made a mistake." I called the shop back. They checked their security footage. It was definitely Diane. She'd shown ID and everything. When I confronted her again with the evidence, she admitted it. "Okay, fine, I picked it up. Mom asked me to. She said you needed alterations done at a different place and wanted me to get it." "Why would Mom need my dress?" "I don't know. I was just doing what she asked." "God, Victoria, why are you always so dramatic?" I drove to my parents' house. My mother was in the kitchen. "Mom, where's my wedding dress?" She looked up, startled. "What?" "Diane picked up my dress from the bridal shop at your request. Where is it?" "Oh, that. It's upstairs. I was going to have my friend Margaret take a look at it. She's a seamstress, and I thought she could make some improvements." "Improvements? Mom, it's a custom dress. It doesn't need improvements. It needs to be at the bridal shop for my fitting." "Well, excuse me for trying to help. I saw the pictures and I thought it was a bit plain. Margaret could add some lace, maybe some beading." "I don't want lace or beading. I want my dress the way I ordered it." I went upstairs to the guest room and found my dress laid out on the bed. There were pins all over it. Someone had started removing seams. I felt sick. "Mom, someone's been altering this. You're ruining my dress." "Margaret only started a little bit. We can put it back." "Put it back? The seams are ripped out. The fabric is damaged." My mother's face hardened. "If you don't appreciate me trying to help, fine. Take your dress and figure it out yourself." I took my dress to the bridal shop. The owner examined the damage and said she could repair it, but it would cost $800 and wouldn't be ready until 2 days before the wedding. I paid for the repairs and cried the entire drive home. That night, I told Daniel everything. He was furious. "Victoria, your mother deliberately sabotaged your dress. That's not normal family dysfunction. That's intentional harm." "I know. I don't understand why she'd do this." "Have you considered uninviting them from the wedding?" "I can't do that. They're my family." "Family doesn't destroy your wedding dress." He was right, but I couldn't bring myself to uninvite them. Instead, I went into damage control mode, trying to keep them away from any other wedding details. But the sabotage continued. 6 weeks before the wedding, the florist called. "Victoria, I need to confirm the cancellation of your order." "What cancellation? I didn't cancel anything." "Someone called yesterday and canceled your entire flower order, said you'd changed your mind about the flowers." "Who called?" "Let me check. The name on the account says Linda Hayes." "My mother again." I called her. "Why did you cancel my flowers?" "I didn't cancel them. I called to make a change. The red roses you picked were too expensive, so I changed them to carnations. It'll save you money." "Mom, I don't want carnations. I want the flowers I picked." Victoria, you're spending $1,500 on flowers that will die in a week. That's wasteful. Carnations are just as pretty. They're not the same and you know it, and you didn't have the right to change my order. Fine, waste your money. See if I care. I called the florist back and restored my original order, but now they couldn't guarantee availability of all the flowers because of the short notice. 4 weeks before the wedding, the photographer called. Someone had called claiming to be me and asked about changing the package to a cheaper option with fewer hours of coverage. It was my mother again. 3 weeks before the wedding, the DJ received a call requesting a completely different music list than what I'd provided, country music instead of the mix of jazz and contemporary songs I'd chosen. My mother's doing. 2 weeks before the wedding, the venue coordinator called. Someone had tried to reduce the guest count from 150 to 75 to save money on catering. I was done. I drove to my parents' house and walked in without knocking. My mother, Diane, and Kyle were all there, sitting in the living room. "Why are you sabotaging my wedding?" My mother looked up from her phone. "I have no idea what you're talking about. You canceled my flowers. You called my photographer and DJ. You tried to reduce my guest count. You ruined my dress. What is wrong with you?" "I was trying to help you save money." "I didn't ask for your help. I didn't need your help. Daniel and I are paying for everything ourselves. You have no right to interfere." Diane spoke up. "Maybe if you weren't throwing such an expensive, showy wedding, Mom wouldn't feel the need to step in. This isn't about the money. It's about control. All of you." I looked at Kyle, who was avoiding eye contact. "All of you have been undermining this wedding from the start. Why?" Silence. "Tell me why you're doing this." My mother stood up. "Fine, you want to know why? Because you're throwing this elaborate Christmas wedding in everyone's face like you're better than us. Diane's marriage is falling apart, Kyle can't even afford to get married, and here you are, rubbing your perfect life and perfect fiancé in our faces with your fancy winter wedding. So you're jealous." "I'm not jealous. I'm trying to protect you from making a fool of yourself. You're acting like you're some kind of princess when you're just a school teacher marrying an engineer. It's not that special." "Not that special? Mom, this is the most important day of my life." "Well, maybe your life isn't as important as you think it is." The words hung in the air like poison. I looked at my mother, at Diane's smug face, at Kyle's guilty expression. And I made a decision. "Don't come to my wedding." My mother laughed. "You're uninviting your own family?" "Yes, all 3 of you. You're not invited. Don't show up." "You don't mean that." "I absolutely mean it. You've spent months sabotaging everything. You've made this process miserable. You just admitted you're jealous and think my wedding isn't important. So don't come. Stay home and celebrate your moral superiority together." I walked out while my mother yelled after me. That night, my phone exploded with messages from extended family who'd been told I'd lost my mind and uninvited my own mother from my wedding, from my mother, alternating between guilt trips and threats, from Diane calling me selfish and cruel, from Kyle saying I was tearing the family apart. I blocked them all. Daniel and I hired security for the wedding, 2 guards who had photos of my mother, Diane, and Kyle with instructions not to let them in. The week before the wedding, I was stressed but relieved. The sabotage had stopped once I'd cut contact. Everything was back on track. Then, 3 days before the wedding, my maid of honor, Claire, called me, her voice panicked. "Victoria, you need to see something." "What?" "I need to show you in person. Can you meet me?" We met at a coffee shop. Claire pulled out her phone with a grim expression. "My cousin Hannah is friends with Kyle on social media. She sent me these screenshots. Victoria, I'm so sorry." She showed me a group chat. The participants were my mother, Diane, and Kyle. The chat name was Operation Reality Check. I scrolled through messages going back 3 months. My hands started shaking as I read. From 3 months ago, right after I'd announced my engagement, "Mom, she thinks she's so special with her Christmas wedding. Someone needs to bring her back to earth." Diane, "Right? Like we're all supposed to drop everything because Princess Victoria is getting married." Kyle, What are we supposed to do about it? Mom, we make it difficult, small things that add up. She'll either postpone or have such a stressful experience that it takes her down a peg. The messages continued, detailing their plans. My mother suggesting they mess with vendors, Diane offering to accidentally do things to create problems, Kyle agreeing to help with whatever was needed. Then, from 6 weeks ago, Mom, I picked up her dress. It's honestly pretty, but too simple. I'm going to have Margaret make some changes. When V sees it, she'll freak out, and that'll ruin at least a week of her precious planning time. Diane, LOL, she's going to lose it. Kyle, is this going too far? Mom, no, she needs to learn that she's not special. None of us got fairy tale weddings. Why should she? I kept scrolling, each message worse than the last. From 4 weeks ago, Diane, I called the venue and tried to reduce her guest count. The coordinator wouldn't let me make changes without Victoria confirming. Annoying. Mom, we need to find ways to sabotage that she can't trace back to us. Maybe someone at the wedding can cause a scene. Kyle, I could get drunk and make a toast about how marriage is a scam. Mom, perfect. Do that. From 2 weeks ago, after I'd uninvited them, Mom, so she thinks she can just cut us out? We'll show up anyway. I want to see her face when she realizes she can't keep her own mother out of her wedding. Diane, should we do something to really ruin it, like pull a fire alarm during the ceremony? Mom, let's play it by ear. At minimum, we make a scene. Let all her fancy guests see what a terrible daughter she is. I read the entire conversation, 3 months of premeditated sabotage. They'd planned every bit of it, the dress, the flowers, the vendors, all of it. And they were planning to crash the wedding and cause a scene. I looked up at Claire, tears streaming down my face. They hate me. My own family hates me. They're jealous and toxic. Victoria, you need to prepare for them to show up and cause problems. We have security. What if they get past security? What if they cause a scene during the ceremony? You need a backup plan. I thought about it. Then an idea formed. What if instead of trying to stop them from making a scene, we let them, and then I make a scene of my own? Claire's eyes widened. What are you thinking? I'm thinking they want to expose me as a terrible daughter in front of all my guests. What if I expose them instead? Show everyone what they've really been doing? That's risky. It could backfire. Or it could finally hold them accountable. Claire, they've gotten away with this my whole life. Everyone always makes excuses for them. Maybe it's time everyone saw who they really are. We spent the next 2 days preparing. I printed out the entire group chat conversation. I made a folder with documentation of every vendor they contacted, every change they tried to make, photos of my damaged dress, everything. I also called my wedding videographer and gave him specific instructions about capturing anything unusual that happened during the reception. December 22nd arrived, my wedding day. The ceremony was at 4 p.m. at the Riverside Inn, a beautiful historic venue decorated with Christmas lights, evergreen garlands, and white roses. Snow was falling gently outside the windows. It looked like a winter fairy tale. I got ready in the bridal suite with my bridesmaids. We were laughing and drinking champagne when Claire got a text. Security just stopped your mother, Diane, and Kyle at the front entrance. They're causing a scene, demanding to be let in. My stomach dropped. Are they leaving? No, wait. She read the new text. They're saying they'll wait outside and talk to guests as they arrive. Tell everyone what a terrible daughter you are for excluding your own family. I took a deep breath. Okay, let them. Everything will be fine. The ceremony was perfect. Daniel cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. We said our vows in front of 150 people who genuinely loved and supported us. When we kissed, everyone cheered. We were married. The reception was in the ballroom, decorated with candlelight and Christmas trees. The first hour was beautiful, cocktails, appetizers, and guests mingling. Then the doors burst open. My mother, Diane, and Kyle stormed in. They'd somehow gotten past security, I later learned. They'd waited until the guards were escorting out a drunk guest and slipped through a side entrance. My mother marched straight to the center of the dance floor, where Daniel and I were having our first dance. The DJ stopped the music. Everyone turned to look. "Victoria!" My mother's voice rang through the ballroom. "How dare you exclude your own family from your wedding?" I'd prepared for this. I stepped away from Daniel calmly and faced her. "Mom, you weren't invited. Please leave. I'm not leaving until everyone here knows what kind of person you really are." She turned to address the crowd. My daughter uninvited her own mother, sister, and brother from her wedding on nothing because she thinks she's too good for us now that she's got a fancy husband and a fancy life. Some guests looked uncomfortable. Others looked confused. Diane stepped forward. She's been treating us like garbage for months, acting like her precious wedding is more important than family. Kyle added, "We've tried to help with planning and she's rejected everything. She doesn't want us involved at all." I let them finish. Then I picked up the microphone from the DJ booth. "Is everyone enjoying the reception?" Confused agreement from the crowd. "I'm glad. This wedding has been a labor of love for Daniel and I. We've spent months planning every detail to create this perfect day. And we did it despite my mother, sister, and brother spending those same months trying to sabotage it." My mother's face went white. "That's not. I have proof." I pulled out my phone, connected it to the venue's AV system, and projected the group chat conversation on the screen behind me. The entire Operation Reality Check conversation, with my mother, Diane, and Kyle's names clearly visible. I scrolled slowly through the messages as 150 guests read them in stunned silence. My mother picked up my wedding dress without permission and had someone alter it beyond simple repair. Cost me $800 to fix. I projected a photo of the damaged dress. My mother canceled my flower order and tried to change it to carnations to save money, even though Daniel and I were paying for it everything. I showed the florist email confirmation. My mother called my photographer, DJ, and venue to make unauthorized changes to my bookings. More documentation appeared on screen. Then, and all of them, I looked at my mother, sister, and Kyle, planned to crash this wedding and cause a scene to, in their words, bring me back to earth because they think I'm acting like a princess by having a wedding I'm happy about. I scrolled to the most recent messages, including my mother's plan to make a scene and Diane's suggestion to pull a fire alarm. The room was silent except for the sound of people reading.
You want to know why I uninvited my family from my wedding? Because they spent 3 months deliberately sabotaging the most important day of my life out of jealousy and spite. Not because I think I'm too good for them, because they proved they weren't good for me. My mother tried to speak. "Victoria, you're taking this out of context." It's literally a 3-month conversation detailing exactly how you plan to ruin my wedding. What context makes that okay? Diane was crying now, whether from shame or anger, I couldn't tell. "You're embarrassing us in front of everyone." "You embarrassed yourselves when you wrote those messages. I'm just showing people what you already did." I looked at the crowd. Some people looked shocked. Some looked sympathetic. Some were actually nodding in understanding. "I'm sorry for the disruption to what should be a happy celebration, but I wanted everyone to understand why these 3 people weren't invited. It wasn't cruelty. It was self-protection." I nodded to security, who'd finally made it into the ballroom. "Please escort them out, and this time make sure they don't come back." As security approached, my mother made one last attempt. "You're going to regret this. Everyone will know what you did." "Everyone already knows what you did, Mom. It's on the screen behind me." They were escorted out, my mother yelling threats, Diane crying dramatically, Kyle silent and ashamed. Once they were gone, the room burst into conversation. Daniel came to my side and wrapped his arm around me. "Are you okay?" he whispered. "I'm perfect. Let's celebrate our marriage." I raised my glass. "To my real family. Everyone in this room who supports us, loves us, and wants us to be happy. Thank you for being here." Everyone raised their glasses. "Cheers." The DJ started the music again. Within minutes, people were back to dancing and celebrating. Several guests came up to me throughout the night. My Aunt Pearl, my mother's sister. Victoria, I had no idea Linda was doing that. I'm so sorry. You did the right thing exposing her. My mother's mother. You're an incredibly strong woman. I'm proud to have you as my daughter-in-law. My college friend Megan. That was the most badass thing I've ever seen at a wedding. Even some of my mother's friends approached me. Mrs. Henderson, who'd known my mother for 30 years. Your mother has always been controlling and jealous. I've seen her do this to people before. Good for you for standing up to her. The rest of the reception was perfect. We danced, ate cake, gave toasts full of love instead of sabotage. It was everything I'd wanted. That night, as Daniel and I left for our honeymoon suite, I checked my phone one last time. It had been off during the reception, but now it showed dozens of messages. Some from extended family who'd heard about what happened and were supportive, some from my mother's friends saying she was humiliated, some from people I barely knew who'd seen the wedding video. Someone had already posted clips to social media and were praising me for standing up to toxic family. And one from my grandmother, my father's mother, who'd been at the wedding. Victoria, your grandfather and I are so proud of you. Your mother has been a bully your whole life, and someone finally called her on it. You deserved a beautiful wedding, and you got one. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for protecting yourself. Love, Grandma. I cried reading that. We left for our honeymoon the next day, 2 weeks in Scotland, away from all the drama. When we returned in January, the fallout was still ongoing. My mother had told her version of events to anyone who would listen, that I had cruelly humiliated her at my wedding over minor disagreements about planning, that I was vindictive and cruel. But everyone who'd been at the wedding knew the truth. They'd seen the group chat. They'd watched my mother storm in and cause exactly the scene she'd planned to cause, and most importantly, they'd seen the documentation proving everything I'd said. The court of public opinion sided with me. Extended family members started distancing themselves from my mother. Her friends called her out on her behavior. Even my father, who had been mostly silent during all of this, apparently had a reckoning with her about her treatment of me. My parents separated in February. My father called to apologize for not standing up to my mother sooner, for letting her toxicity go unchecked for so many years. I thought keeping the peace was the right thing to do, but all I did was enable her to hurt you. I'm sorry, Dad. Thank you, Dad. That means a lot. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly. He came to dinner last week and met Daniel properly. It was good. Diane reached out in March with an apology. I was caught up in Mom's jealousy and I let it make me cruel. You didn't deserve any of what we did. I'm sorry. We're not close yet, but we're talking. She's in therapy and working on separating herself from our mother's influence. Kyle apologized too, more genuinely than I expected. I went along with everything because I thought it was funny. It wasn't funny. It was mean. You're my sister, and I should have supported you instead of tearing you down. We're cordial now. Not where we were before all this, but not enemies either. My mother hasn't apologized. She sent one email that said, I hope you're happy with how you've torn this family apart. You chose humiliation over forgiveness, and now we all have to live with the consequences.
I responded, you chose sabotage over support. You made your choices. These are your consequences. She hasn't contacted me since. Now it's been almost a year since the wedding. Daniel and I are thriving in our marriage. We've bought a house together. We're planning for the future. We're happy. People still talk about our wedding, not because of the drama, but because of how I handled it. I get messages from strangers who saw the video online saying I inspired them to stand up to their own toxic families. Someone made it into a TikTok series. It went viral. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. She documented everything before confronting them. That's how you do it. The fact that they literally wrote down their sabotage plan and she used it against them is chef's kiss. This is what consequences look like. My favorite comment, She gave them exactly what they wanted, a scene at her wedding, just not the scene they expected. That's exactly what I did. They wanted to expose me as a terrible daughter in front of everyone. Instead, I exposed them as terrible family members with their own words. They wanted to ruin my perfect day. Instead, I protected it by showing everyone who they really were. They wanted me to feel small and undeserving of happiness. Instead, I stood tall and claimed the joy they tried to steal. The best revenge isn't suffering in silence. It's not letting toxic people operate in the shadows where they can gaslight you and rewrite history. The best revenge is evidence, documentation, truth. My family sabotaged my Christmas wedding for 3 months, planning every detail of how to destroy my happiness. So, I exposed every detail of their plan in front of 150 witnesses. They wanted a scene, I gave them one they'll never forget. And my wedding, despite their best efforts, it was absolutely perfect because they couldn't ruin what they were never really part of. My real family, the people who actually love and support me, made that day magical. The people who tried to destroy it just exposed themselves. And honestly, that's a better wedding gift than they ever could have given me. Merry Christmas to me and happy marriage to us.